Hello lovelies, how are you all doing today? I hope you're well. I am. I'm having an at-home day though, doing various bits and pieces, and I thought I'd just take a few minutes out of my day for a little catch up with you all. Some bits and bobs to fill you in on, and it occurs to me that there's a bit of a seaside theme to today. And it starts with, we're into November. What's the date? It's after the 5th of November now, but it doesn't, the fireworks seem to have been going on every night. Never mind. So it's a new day on my calendar from my sis. I love this. I think it's at Robin Hood's Bay, which is one of the beaches up in North Yorkshire on the coast near where she lived. But I love the composition of it. I don't think you can see really close up. Here's the beach. You can see a few people, the hills in the distance, some waves coming crashing in. But mostly it's the skyscape. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. I love the composition of it. As soon as I turned it over and had it up on the shelf there, I was like, yay. Blue's my favourite colour. Blues and greens and lilacs and heathers. It's all that kind of sea and more colours. Love it. More of my sister in a minute and something that kind of cracked me up. But before I get into my sister stuff, it's nearly the end of the M&S saga. I mean, how ridiculous. So the whole bra saga, that was one thing. So 2 bras, never did get a refund. I got a gift card for one of them, not the other. Never mind. Then I ordered the wrist warmers and they arrived broken. You know the rest of it. So this is the package. I took them to my local parcel shop. This is the barcode that couldn't be scanned because it's fuzzy. So I came home from that. That was on Friday. I think it's Monday or Tuesday today, so it's either the 6th or the 7th. It doesn't matter, it's just another day to get on with some fun stuff. So I came home from, why was I at the plot? Oh, I'd done my shopping at the plot, hadn't I? I came home, I'd made that video. I wanted to get on with cooking straight away, but I was giving my knees a rest, and I thought, right, open the computer, I'm going to write to M&S. So I wrote a note. Also, before I'd even made the parcel up, I'd photographed the gloves, I photographed myself putting the gloves in the packet, I photographed the packet, I photographed the label, everything. I thought, I'm not gonna give them a chance to wriggle out of this and say something's my fault. Anyway, so I emailed them with a picture showing that the base of the thumb, the hole, it was all unravelled. And I said, look, and I explained about the parcel shop couldn't scan the label. I said, yes, you could send me another label. However, at this point, with all the trouble I've had in the last 3 months, I would just like a refund, please. And I pointed out that what are you going to do with the gloves when you get them back anyway? You can't sell them, so there's no point in me returning them to you. Just please give me a refund. And I attached the photo. So, excuse me. It took a couple of days, but on the Sunday, I got an email to say, we've refunded you, thanks for sending the photo. And I thought, hallelujah, and the refund arrived that day, hallelujah, it's done, I'm done. And I thought, you know what, I will try and repair the gloves. I don't mind repairing them if they're not wanting them back. I just didn't want to repair something that was brand new. I haven't had the time to do it, so they've been sat in the packet. Then yesterday, I was out for maybe about an hour. I had a few bits and bobs to do, post office, what have you. Came home, I'd had the computer on at about 8, 9 that morning. By now it was about 12:30 when I came home from my errands. Turned the computer on and there was an email from the parcel people saying, we called to collect your M&S parcel, you were not in. They hadn't even warned me. It's like, well, if I knew you were coming, I would have stayed at home. And then it went on to say, we'll try again tomorrow. It's now tomorrow. Who knows, the buzzer may go. But I haven't had an email from them to say what time they might try. And to be honest, I'm not going to just sit indoors all day waiting for them to possibly collect, possibly not, because they've not got in touch with me. So that's why I said the saga is over, almost. I've got my refund, that's all I care about. If they actually get in touch to say we'll be arriving between 11 and 12, and if that's convenient to me, you know, if they say 11 till 12 and it's a dry day, I won't be here, I'll be in the garden. So I'm not going to remove them from the package just yet. I'm not going to try and repair them just yet, because if M&S are going to come and collect them, so be it. But I've got a couple of thank yous to say, because in the meantime, I've had 2 pairs of wrist warmers sent to me. Okay, so the first pair, I don't know who they're from. They are gorgeous. I love the colour. I love this kind of lime green chartreuse colour. So they don't have, I'll demonstrate on this one, they don't have thumbs on them, but there's a little opening for the thumb. Hi. Oh, they're lovely alpaca wool. Lovely. Such a fun, happy colour. And like I was just saying, I love blues and greens. So, whoever you are, they arrived, I guess, from the folk who've made them. There was no gift note, there was nothing in there. So please own up so I can thank you. Then, on the same day, also in the post, another pair. I've been using these already. The reason I particularly like these is the rows of knitting are this way on the hand and then this way on the band. So there's a bit of give. So for my knuckles, when I spread my knuckles, boof, 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 I don't punch people, there's a bit of give. But because it's the other way at the top, it goes that way, it stays sort of firm. I don't know how to describe it. In other words, it's not going baggy and gaping and letting in cold air. Now these have been made for me. Look, little handmade label. I'm really rubbish at reading your handwriting. Is it Leanne? I can't make out your name, lovely. I'm so sorry. And we have had contact before, a year ago, maybe a year more, because it's not Leanne. I can't read it, I'm sorry. Let's see, you will, well, I was going to say you'll recognise your notepaper, but you recognise your own handmade thing. So please also pipe up so I can thank you properly. And this woman makes them to sell. So also, if you want to, in comments, put your website or something underneath where people can get in touch if they would like to buy a pair, because she makes and sells them for £6.50, which is a bargain when you think how much you pay for them in the shops, and they're mass produced. These are handmade loveliness. So yes, please pop your name and details underneath, so if folk want to buy from you, they can. I can recommend them because I've been wearing them. Mainly sort of in the evening when the temperature here it's not cold by any means. It's, you know, if you're moving around and doing stuff, it's perfectly pleasant. I've just come back from the post office again. That warmed me up enough to be in vest and t-shirt. In fairness, this t-shirt is one of the 3 TOG, the highest TOG thermals, so it's really snuggly. But yeah, it's not that it's particularly cold, but it's just this dampness. We are sopping wet. It's been non-stop rain for weeks now. So I think sort of late into the evening, when it sort of gets to about 10, 11 o'clock at night, I've finished my work, I've finished sort of being kind of scurrying around, busy, plonk myself on the sofa and I'm reading. I've got a corker of a book to share in a minute. It's those times when I'm sort of sat totally still. The only movement is my hand turning the page, occasionally reaching out for my water, or I've even been having hot peppermint tea the last few nights. So it's perfect. Pop the gloves on then, and it makes so much difference. So yes, thank you, lovely. I'm sorry I can't read. I could read your writing for the whole note, and then I've got to the end and I can't read it. It looks like Larary. I know your name isn't Larary, Leanne. I'm so sorry. But please give us a shout, so if folk want to buy, they can get in touch. Okay, so, gosh, so much to catch you up on. Just sort of on carrying on with this sea theme and my sister, and we're going to get through all of this today with no tears. But I will need a few glugs. So I knew, or at least I had an idea, and it's confirmed, that after my sister's death, her entire estate, it makes it sound very grand and a lot, doesn't it? It's not. But it was all going to be passed to her husband and my nephew. Of course, great, that's what's happened. And I didn't bring this up there was something of my sister's that I wanted to have, and I didn't know how to broach the subject. I felt really shy about it, and yeah, my brother-in-law and I have been in touch a lot, almost weekly since my sister's death. So we've been chatting, and we chat obviously about my sister and some of the really mundane, boring stuff that has to happen in terms of getting her everything sorted. Both her stuff, her physical stuff and all. Yeah. But we talk about, the garden. He's got an allotment too, but up where he is, it's quite a bit colder and wetter. He's often quite surprised when I tell him what I'm up to in my garden. He's like, I did that finished weeks ago. Anyway, so I can't remember how the subject of jewellery came up in one of our chats, and I just thought, I'm going to dive in and ask him about this piece of jewellery, because, oh my gosh, I couldn't get it out of my head. And I kept thinking, if you don't ask him and he gets rid of it, sells it or whatever, you'll be kicking yourself forever. Just ask him, Anyway, so I finally plucked up the courage on this particular day, and I said, oh, speaking of jewellery, and oh God, I felt so awkward. But I brought it up and I asked him, I said, there's a particular piece that I would really love to have if you and my nephew, if neither of you want it. Obviously, if you both want to keep it, then keep it, please. But if you're not fussed, I'd love to have it. And actually, while we were on the phone, he went upstairs to her jewellery box. Now, my sister, she loved jewellery, earrings, rings, bracelets, necklaces, always, well, for the most part, very, not kind of clunky, great big Prue Leith type necklaces, but very fine. And both of us have only ever worn silver in our lives, occasionally platinum. Gold has never suited either of us. We both wear silver. We both have the same kind of skin tone. We're kind of olive, so in the summer we'll both go, brown as little nuts. So this particular piece of jewellery I actually bought for her. It was for her 50th birthday, so she turned 50 before me. She's the older sister. And because it was her 50th, I wanted it to be special. We normally say, look, let's not spend more than 40, 50 quid on each other for birthday or Christmas. And at that time I was working, I was earning. So, knowing her love for jewellery, silver jewellery, and we have similar taste, so quite fine. So if it's a pendant on a chain, it'll be a really fine chain, just something small, discreet. I thought, I know. So I popped up to Tiffany in central London. Oh God, it's very zhuzhy. It's on a very zhuzhy street with lots of zhuzhy shops. I felt a bit of a fraud. But anyway, so I bought her a little bracelet from Tiffany. So it's silver with a little heart dangle on it in seafoam green. It's kind of like, their trademark colour is that seafoam green. And obviously gave it to her for her 50th. She loved it. And then from that moment until now, literally every time I've seen her, even if you know, even if it's just a day, if it's a week, whatever it is, whenever I've seen her since then, she's always had it on. Now, I don't know whether, I doubt she's worn it every single day, but I love the fact that whenever she's with me, she wears it. It's like her way of saying, thank you, I love it, which is so sweet. So anyway, I mentioned this to my brother-in-law. We were on the phone. He went upstairs. He was rummaging through her jewellery, and I described, and he said, oh, is it this? Is it that? And I said, yes, that's it. And he said, oh yeah, I'll post it down to you, which he did. So I now have it's got its little pouch still. It's broken though, so I need to take it to Tiffany's. There's a little, I don't know if you can make out, you see the little silver dangle. You can see it's got the little, the camera's not going to be able to pick it up. It's got the little Tiffany bit on the back. That, at the moment, it's in the clasp, but it's supposed to hang from this middle bead. I don't know if you can make out, there's a little bit for the heart to dangle on. Anyway, so I've got it. So it's these little silver balls, and then they're threaded over the little silver chain. Sweet as pie. Sweet as pie. Oh, sorry, it's going to be really hard on camera, but yeah, in that lovely seafoam green that we both love. I remember when I was looking at it, they did one that was plain silver, the heart, the plain silver, or the enamelled with the seafoam green, or enamelled with pink. My sister did sometimes wear a bit of pink, but it would be like a dusky dark rose pink rather than baby pink, and I just thought, no, the seafoam green. Anyway, so he got that sent to me. Lovely. Not quite the end of the story though. So I will take that up to Tiffany's in town. I'll ring first. I would have thought a jeweller like Tiffany's would offer a repair service. I would have thought so. So at some point I'm going to get that repaired so that I can start wearing it. And I think that's just lovely. It reminds me so much of her, but it also reminds me of her and I together. It's perfect. Fast forward about 3 or 4 weeks to the present day. So I was chatting with my brother-in-law at the weekend, just other random stuff, and something that's been an issue for him, because he knows my sister's wishes, but in order to finalise probate and all that kind of stuff, it all has to be done properly. They hadn't been able to get into her computer. So they'd got her phone, and they were able to, he knew the password for that, so he was into her phone, and it was on the phone that she dictated the letter to me that I shared with you a few weeks ago, that included the bit, you know, encouraging me to write a book and find my little forever home, and to take her, or part of her remains, to Swanage and go for a swim with her. That was in her phone. Great, did that. Got into her tablet. You know, it's kind of a lesson in this for all of us, isn't it? About, we live these days with all this technology. Make sure someone else knows how to get in. Now, apparently, her computer, they had to get a boffin in. It was apparently massively encrypted, like way overly encrypted for, you know, a regular, it wasn't like her work computer, and even for a work computer, the boffin said it was way over encrypted, even for a work type computer. This is her personal little laptop at home. So I was conjecturing that maybe my sister had a second life as a spy. No, I'm pretty sure she didn't. I don't think she would have had time to be a spy. Anyway, they got through all the encryption, and there was a note on there about this bracelet. She said, please make sure it goes back to Vivi. I thought I was going to do this with no tears. These are happy tears. So yeah, she'd thought of it too. So even if I hadn't plucked up the courage to speak to my brother-in-law that day, it would have found its way back to me anyway. Thanks, sis. Great minds think alike, eh? And apparently there is a necklace that she mentioned as well. I think it's made in sea glass. I love sea glass. So that's on its way. Obviously this came a few weeks ago. But what I also love, and here we are with this seaside theme today, is, so her estate is going to, I mean, it's not anyone's business, her husband and son, of course, but she's made provision for 3 charities, 2 of which she was closely linked with and has worked with, etc., etc. But the 3rd charity, and I love her for this, and it's in my will as well, the RNLI. RNLI. For those who don't know, it's the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. It's for our lifeboats. So she's made provision in her will for the lifeboats. And I've been reading a book and it's about the sea. So I've had the sea on my mind, and, you know, the sea foam dangle, the sea glass necklace that's coming, the seascape, this book, her leaving money for the lifeboat, for our lifeboat people. It's just lovely to me. I feel so bonded with her over these things, and it got me thinking about how important the sea has been to both of us. We both adore the sea. We both love swimming in the sea. Any excuse, and we both get to the seaside. So yeah, there's a bit of a sea theme, and I'll come back to the RNLI in a minute. Also, it reminds me. So I had to look up some figures for this. Have I got them to hand? Yeah, okay. Because there's some trivia. I'm going to give you some trivia that I didn't know. So, talking of the sea and sea bathing, when I came back from Swanage, this is going to go, I'm doing a Ronnie Corbett today. We'll go all around the houses and get to the point eventually. They're all part of the point. Excuse me. Yes, when I came back from Swanage, I was chatting with a friend of mine, an American friend of mine, and we got straight onto the subject of sea swimming because she loves to sea bathe too. Yes, chat. And I was saying how utterly delicious it had been to get back in the sea while I was down at Swanage, and I'd kind of broken that sort of self-imposed exile because I haven't swum in the sea for 4 years, but yay, I'm back and I can't wait for my next trip down there and I can't wait to get back in the sea, etc. And we kind of digressed a bit, and it was interesting because she gave me a different perspective because she's American that I'd never thought of. And this goes back now to, it's about this time last year. I've got a bit of a weird troll. It doesn't bother me. It's just a bit of weirdness. And there'd been a video about this time last year, possibly off the back of a book I'd been reading, I'm not sure, but I'd mentioned sea bathing. And this woman jumped on me, as she often does, to say, basically, she calls me a liar a lot. I'll say something and she'll say, "You're a liar, prove it." It's like, there are weird things she asks me to prove, and I'm not going to go that route. But anyway, this woman had asked me to prove that I've swum in the sea. I'd showed this on Facebook a little while before I went to Swanage, and there's a picture of me in the sea. It's the Adriatic I showed the picture of. And at the time I just thought, what a bonkers thing to say. What a completely, truly bonkers thing to say, to prove that I've been swimming in the sea. I've been swimming in the sea since I was a baby. But anyway, so that came up when I was chatting with my American friend, and she said, and I know this troll is an American, she says, prove that you've swum in the ocean. We don't call it the ocean, we call it the sea. Anyway, semantics, that doesn't matter. But my American friend shed a bit of light on that, because I was saying to her that I've swum in Swanage, and there's a video of me on the beach in my bathing suit, so perhaps now she'll believe me. So my chum said to me, but the thing is, in America, there are people who've never been to the ocean. They've never seen the ocean, they've never been there, they've certainly never dipped a toe in it. And that, for a Brit, seems really, really bonkers. So this is where I looked up a bit of trivia. Because, of course, America is such a vast, you know, geographically vast sized country that I guess there are people who've not travelled, they've not travelled that far to get to the coast, to go and have a dip in the sea. So this is what I looked up. I tried to look up what's the farthest point from the sea in both the UK and in America. And this is mental. This will blow minds of all of us here in the UK. So the furthest in the UK that you can be away from the sea is 70 miles. It's just 70 miles away. And that's in Derbyshire, in a village called, I had to look this up, Cotton in the Elms. It's actually the farthest point, according to Grid Reference Ordnance Survey, is a little farm outside of Cotton in the Elms called Church Flat Farm. Anyway, so it's 70 miles is the furthest in Britain, in England, sorry, that you can be away from the sea. In America, it's over 1,000 miles into the centre of America. You can be 1,000 miles away from the sea. You're farther away from the sea in America than it is. I looked this one up as well. In the UK, Land's End down in Cornwall to John O'Groats up in Scotland by road, 874 miles. So for us in the UK to get our head around the idea of an American friend not going to the sea, that would be like going from John O'Groats to Land's End and then back up as far as, I don't know, maybe Bath or somewhere, maybe a bit, it's going to be further than that, isn't it? Maybe back all the way back up to Birmingham or something, just to get to the sea. So although, like I said, that woman is a troll, you know, I mean, at the time I thought, when she said, prove that you've swum in the sea, I was thinking, well, I've literally got photographs from, I would guess, every single year of my life, apart from the last 4, of me swimming in the sea. Both in the UK, various beaches around the UK, all around, you know, beaches in the Mediterranean. But no, I am not going to get into a situation where I have to prove myself to someone. You just take me at my word. And if you don't believe me, don't watch my channel. It's as simple as that. But yeah, so thank you to my friend who, like I said, she's from the US. So to trying to explain why someone may think that it's odd to have swum in the sea. Anyway, so that then got me further thinking about, I'm going to come on to this book now as well. It got me further thinking about how the sea has obviously influenced my life, but also how subliminally for us Brits, how it's just, I think, you know, there may be a few people out there, I don't know, but I think it's a huge part of all our lives, whether we realise it or not. It's because it's there, it's all around us. Whichever way you go, you hit the sea, you know. If we want to go anywhere that's not the UK, we have to go over sea. Whether we're in an aeroplane going above, whether we're in a train that's going under the sea or in a boat across the sea, we can't leave this country without going across sea. So yeah, it's part of us. And I thought, I'm going to play this little game with you now. Not a game, but I started to think about words which we may not necessarily know exactly what it's about, but the word will be familiar with us, and it's coming into this book. So, see what these words mean to you for all of you Brits watching, and maybe some folk from overseas will think, oh yeah, I know about that too, without necessarily knowing about it. So if I say to you words like Fastnet, Eddystone, Bishop's Rock, are you thinking, oh, I know what they are. I know those words. What is it? Fastnet, it's a boat race, isn't it? Bishop's Rock. Did John Noakes go there on Blue Peter once? Of course, I'm talking about rock lighthouses, and that's what my book is about that I want to share with you in a second. But yeah, Bishop's Rock, Eddystone, Fastnet, names that we all will probably, we know those words, even if we don't know what the things are. Here are a few more. I don't even have to look at my list for this one. Lundy, Portland, White, Thames, Humber, Dogger, Cromarty, Viking. Oh, it's the beloved shipping forecast. Okay, so for those outside of the UK, or maybe some in the UK who don't know about this, 4 times a day there is a broadcast, which is, we call it the shipping forecast. It's a weather forecast for those at sea. Whoever you are, whether you're a fisherman, a pleasure yachter, or even folk by the coast. So all the areas of sea around the country are sort of cut up into smaller regions, and those are the names of them, of some of them. So the shipping forecast, they'll say Lundy, gale force 8, rising. Dogger, gale force 9, lowering, or whatever, whatever it is. But there's just something about, I love the shipping forecast. Auntie Teapot loved the shipping forecast as well. She always had it on in the middle of the night. There's one that comes on, I think it's 12 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Don't quote me. But to me, the shipping forecast, Cromarty always got me. As a kid, it felt like, it was like names of, apart from some of the obvious ones like Thames and Humber, it felt like names of different lands. There was something magical about it. I didn't know what any of the words meant, but the way in which it's read, it's like a book at bedtime, a story. It's like a lullaby. So even now, I love to listen to the shipping forecast, even though I'm on land. I don't know how long it has been being broadcast for, but it's decades. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a century or more. Shipping forecast, love it. And I read a book some time back, ages and ages ago, 20 odd years ago, and possibly even longer. Oh, I should have looked it up before I turned the camera on. I think it's called something like Adventures in the Shipping Forecast, and it was about a guy. It's a travel book, but he wanted to go and visit each of the shipping forecast areas. I can't remember how many areas there are either, but each chapter of the book was a different area of the shipping forecast. Lundy, White. Oh, I missed Portland. Portland, that's the important one. Portland Bill, Swanage, Dorset. Okay, let's have some more words. And one that's a bit of a sad one, but talking of RNLI, the Penly Lifeboat. So, I don't know when it was, late 70s, early 80s. So anyone my age or older will, if they hear the words Penly Lifeboat, will probably in their head automatically tag on to the end of it, tragedy. They went out in, I get upset talking about this, right? They went out in, hurricane force winds to try and, to attempt to rescue. They were based out of Mousehole in Cornwall. I think the lifeboat house has moved since then, I'm not sure. But yeah, lifeboat, the boat they were trying to rescue and the lifeboat went down, all hands lost. Eight crew members. We'll get happy again in a second, but that's one of the reasons why I'm, when I was in Dorset, I made a beeline for the lifeboat house. Make a beeline to drop off a donation, whatever it is, because all of us should support the RNLI. We never know when one of us might need it, but never mind if I don't need it. People out in the sea need them. They do amazing work. Volunteers, remember? So to know that my sister, so it's coming back to my sister as well, there am I talking about Penly, which was, I don't know, it's probably about 40 years ago. It's when I was a kid. It was 40 years ago that the tragedy happened, and it was all over the news, it's everywhere. And here we are today, me showing you Swanage Lifeboat House, my sister leaving a donation in her will, my tea towel Lifeboats are great. Let's support them. So some last few words to do with the sea. Victory, Cutty Sark, Ark Royal, Golden Hind, Mary Rose. Again, I know that there's a load of you who will immediately go, oh yeah, it's a boat, it's a ship. If I say Victory, in your head you'll be saying HMS. If I say Ark Royal, you'll be saying HMS. If I say Cutty Sark, you'll be going, oh, tea clipper that they run around in the London Marathon. The Mary Rose, of course, probably loads of you, like me, watched it on TV being raised. That was Henry VIII's flagship, I think, wasn't it? The Victory, which I think it lives at Portsmouth. Is it berthed at Portsmouth? Victory was Nelson's ship, Nelson's flagship. It's always a flagship, isn't it? But it did once come to Poole. I think it must have been Poole Harbour in Dorset when we were kids. And so we had a day trip over to Poole to go and see HMS Victory. And it was tiny, and I thought, oh, what? You know, when you're below deck, it's so tiny. But as a kid, it was amazing to go and visit it and get on the boat. And suddenly all these stories that one learns about, you know, life at sea and battles, and suddenly it all comes to life. Brilliant. So, finally, Esther, need another slug, otherwise it's going to be a really long one. I think it's been a long one already. Right, notes, just a couple. So, this wonderful book that I've been reading, that I have read, in this few days that feel like they are seeped with the sea. But on reflection, I was thinking, I think I probably think about the sea every single day, pretty much. Put it this way, when it's hot and it's the summer and I'm in the garden and I'm sweating, every time my friends get fed up with me saying it, like, why can't we be next to the sea? And then after a sweaty day in the plot, I can just go and have a swim. We need to move this allotment to the seaside. Anyway, yeah. So this book, picked it up, and I can't believe I hummed and hawed about it for a minute. So I had it in my hand and I continued browsing. It's secondhand. I got it from the secondhand shop. I continued browsing and I had it in my hand still, and then I went to sit down to have a closer look at it. Honestly, why did I hum and haw? It's a no-brainer. So it's called, title is brilliant, Sea Shaken Houses, it's a bit of a mouthful, Sea Shaken Houses by Tom Nancolas. Subtitle, A Lighthouse History from Eddystone to Fastnet. You see, those are those names again. It's this guy's first book. I think it was 2018. Let me just double check the publication date. Yeah, 2018. I wonder if he's written anything subsequently. I'd love to read anything. Very simply put, there's 8 chapters and an interlude chapter, and it's specifically looking at our rock lighthouses. So there are lighthouses that are built out to sea, not the ones on the land. Oh, God, it's brilliant. What an absolute romp of a read. It kept me up really late one night, then the next day I had to finish it. It's brilliant. So, wonderful. It deals with 3 of my favourite things anyway. Architecture, engineering, and the sea. But way more besides. It's history. It's sort of part travelogue, because he goes around the country visiting these various places. So we get a sense of the place on shore that this lighthouse is sort of attached to by a ribbon of sea. There's physics in there, electricity, the first kind of, trying to harness and use electricity, parabolic reflectors, lenses. It's a smorgasbord. Couldn't put it down. So this guy, he is a building conservator, does conservation on buildings. And it was while he was doing his, I can't remember if it was his degree or his master's, when he was doing his dissertation, he was trying to find a subject that was a bit more niche, maybe other people haven't looked at it So he looked at conservation of these beautiful lighthouse buildings of ours. The most recent rock lighthouse to be constructed, it's 1904 or 7, hang on a second. 1904 is the most recent rock lighthouse that's been built, and that's the one at Fastnet. So these buildings are buildings worthy of, he's talking about, conservation. It was fascinating. I'm trying to formulate my words now. I'm a bit in awe, actually. I finished it yesterday and I want to start straight away again to read it again. It's really packed with information, but it's really, really easy to read. He's got a lovely conversational style, and everything flows. There's quite a lot of technical stuff in there, but it doesn't boggle one's mind. It's written and explained in such a way as the layperson can easily understand. What it made me think as I was closing it last night is, I feel like we take lighthouses for granted in a way. And it comes back to that RNLI thing that these are buildings, they are, I've forgotten the word, what's the word? There's something incredibly altruistic about them, because it's not about making money, although they did once upon a time. It's not about making money, it's about saving lives, hopefully saving lives, and it's not even about saving British lives, it's about saving the lives of anyone and everyone who comes into these waters. But yeah, it was really fascinating. So yeah, sorry, back to that fact of I think we take them for granted. I'm sure, think about when we go to the seaside for our holidays and we see gift shops, there'll be a little clay or wooden lighthouse amongst all the stuff. Images of lighthouses on fabric prints, on bunting. I think I did some bunting with lighthouses on once. Curtains, cushions, that lighthouse, the image of a lighthouse, it's going to be on all your gear, on some of the gear you buy from a gift shop when you're on holiday at the seaside. And I'm willing to bet that if you asked a child to draw, I'm giddy and I'm excited, I know I'm talking too quickly, I'll slow down. I reckon if we asked any child, can you draw me a picture of a lighthouse? We'd get that with the light on the top and maybe red and white stripes. It's always red and white stripes, isn't it? So they are buildings with which we are so familiar, but yet how many of us really understand A, how they work, and B, how they were built? Have you ever visited a lighthouse? I know two lighthouses fairly well, the one at Portland and Anvil Point, which is the one nearest my grandparents. I'm just suddenly feeling a bit chilly. I've cooled down since I was out, so I'm just going to put on my sister poncho. That's better. That will be better. The one at Anvil Point. Do I carry on with my point I was making or talk about Anvil Point? I'll talk about Anvil Point in a minute. But yeah, I think we are all, like I said, really familiar with what does the lighthouse look like. We can, right now, I'm sure the majority of you can conjure the image of a lighthouse in your mind. We could all draw one probably, never mind just the kids. I had a fairly good idea of how they work from having visited a few, from sometimes seeing things on the telly or what have you. But in terms of how they were built, the rock lighthouses, the ones out to sea, I had no idea. And the more I read, the more in utter awe I was of the engineering, of the audacity to even try it in the first place. The first one at Eddystone was 1600 and late 1600s, a handy little table at the back, 1698. 1698, the first offshore, if you like, lighthouse was attempted. Crazy. So yeah, I think it's an incredibly niche title, book. an incredibly niche subject. But actually, especially for those of us in the UK, we live on an island, we're surrounded by the sea. It's so much a part of all of our lives. Pretty much most of the shopping that you will do in your high street will have come in on a ship, unfortunately. Yeah, it's utterly fascinating. Totally fascinating. I'm so glad I've read it and have a much, much better understanding of the whole gig now, not just the actual building. Of course, most of them have been, as it's called, demanned by now. I think all the rock lighthouses, they were saying, have been demanned. It's all automatic. I think the majority, I think there was one left, it might even have been Fastnet, where they're all now solar powered rather than diesel. At the time he wrote this, Fastnet was still diesel because he was out there. He managed to get to go out to Fastnet with the maintenance crew. Yeah, fascinating stuff. And what I love, it's one of the great joys of reading, is that literally one sentence in a book can prompt 100 new thoughts from me. I can read a sentence and suddenly ping, 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 I'm off in all sorts of directions. And when I was reading this, a couple of things came up. He goes to Perch Rock, which is, it's on the Wirral. So for those in the UK who you might not know the Wirral, it's the little bit under Liverpool. It's the peninsula that sticks out. So you've got Liverpool and the Mersey. You've got the Wirral, a sort of like a peninsula. Then the River Dee, and then you've got Wales. So Perch Rock is up here. And he was describing, and it made me chuckle because it was my memories from a kid. I grew up on the Lancashire coast. Not on the coast, I grew up slightly inland, but on that bit of Lancashire coast. My dad lived in Southport, which is the Lancashire coast, and he describes when they're going to Perch Rock, they're waiting for the tide to go out, and it's a bit of a joke up there. It was always a family joke as well. The tide is miles away. It's just miles and miles and miles and miles of sand. The tide is never in. So whenever we went to Southport Beach or Formby, we used to go to Formby mostly because the sand dunes are lovely and the red squirrels in the forest there. But it was always that thing of, we take our bathing suits, but what's the point? Because you've got to walk 2 miles to get out to sea. Dangerous, which is why there's a lighthouse, because of shifting sandbanks, and also because you walk so far out, the tide can actually sort of come in behind you and then it races in because it's so shallow, it can race in really quickly. But yeah, that was always the family joke. What's the point of taking our bathing suits because the tide's going to be out? So when I was reading, he was at Perch Rock when they were waiting for the tide to go out, and then suddenly it's just miles and miles of sand. I thought, yeah, as a Lancashire beach kid, I recognise that. And then the other thing that it got me onto, because he only talks briefly about foghorns in this book. It's mostly about the actual It's mostly about the light. And I started remembering down at my grandparents when they lived in the village, when they were into Swanage. So I then went online after reading the book to check out some stuff about the lighthouse at Anvil Point down in Swanage. The foghorn was decommissioned in 1988, apparently. Not sure why. But never mind Swanage. When I was at my grandparents in the village, so I was slightly higher ground, and literally if I look out of my bedroom window at my grandparents' house, there's nothing. It's the last house in the village, or it was. There's 2 more houses have been built on that road now. But it was the last house in the village, so you look out of the window and all you can see is the field gently rising, usually arable, sometimes it was dairy, a ridge, and then beyond just sky, because then it drops off, pardon me, down to the cliffs, down to the rocks, down to the sea. So I could look out of that window and it's just this huge, and it's probably why I love this picture of my sisters, just this huge sky and a sense of the sea. You couldn't see the sea, but there was always that sense of it. You can smell it. Could I hear it? I don't know if I could hear it as a kid, maybe on a really rough day. But then if a really heavy sea fog came in, because that ridge was ever so slightly higher than my grandparents' house, of me looking out of the window slightly up that field, you could see the fog come in, and it's almost like it would, this is how it felt to me as a kid anyway, it's almost like it would tumble down the field and come to the house, and suddenly it would just be blank, white, can't see a thing. We could hear the foghorn, and it haunts me to this day, that sound of the foghorn. It's haunting. It's a haunting, baleful sound. It's quite a deep note. For any nerds out there, if you go online, you can, there's a website, I found everything, that's got samplers of various foghorns from around the country that you can listen to. It's a proper, honestly, lifeboats, lighthouses, it's nerd, I love it. But yeah, the one at Anvil Point, it was just this low, baleful moaning, and as kids, it terrified us. It sounded like monsters in the deep, and of course, because the fog has come in, and it's a whiteout around the house, you can't see anything. All we can hear is this terrifying as kids. So I don't know whether it was my grandparents, I think they must have come up with the name. They called it Moaning Minnie. So whenever the foghorn blew, it was just referred to as Moaning Minnie, Moaning Minnie's moaning again, to try and make it kind of like a not a frightening thing. I had, oh God, do you know what? This is one of those occasions when I was thinking, I wish my sister was still around, because after reading this book, I would have phoned up and said, oh my God, I've just remembered Moaning Minnie. Do you remember Moaning Minnie and how terrifying she was? So yeah, and I thought, why? So it's been decommissioned. The foghorn part's been decommissioned, and I think it was 88, they said. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because modern navigational aids, you know, with GPS and all the satellites we've got everywhere, it felt it wasn't needed. He does, Tom Nancolas, that's an interesting surname. He does speculate at the end about how, you know, with all this modern navigation that we have, all these satellites, will lighthouses become defunct? But as he's saying, a lot of the guys he's met along the way, they're saying, look, we still navigate by them. It's not necessary that we're using them to warn us off the rocks, although it's a comfort to know they're going to flash at us. But also just things like lining up the lighthouse with a landmark on land to know, we need to be heading this way to get into the shipping channel or whatever. And as he says, you know, the thing about GPS is it could break. You know, there could be some cyber attack which cuts out a satellite which is being used for navigation. So I sincerely hope our lighthouses are here forever. Well, for at least as long as I've got left. They're wonderful buildings, and I hope actually, you know, I was going to put this in the shop, but I don't know whether I think I want to keep it. But if you find it, have a read, it's well worth it. And I hope, if nothing else, I hope this has kind of sparked maybe an interest for some of you to think, actually, you know what, Vivi's right, we take them for granted. I'm not saying I'm right, but just that thing of maybe next time you're holidaying or having a day trip near the coast, if there's a lighthouse there and it's one that allows visitors in, maybe pop in, have a visit and see how they work. Fascinating stuff, fascinating. So I think, did I cover everything I wanted to talk about this book? Yeah, I mean, it's there's so much to it. A fun read, a really interesting read, a quick read, a page turner. And actually, you know, there's something about winter, isn't there? When we at home are sort of hunkering down and wanting to stay cosy and shut out the storm and all that kind of stuff, that makes it seem a perfect winter read. If you can get a copy, get yourself a copy. Ask your library, and maybe if you do find a copy, pass it on to a friend who you think will love it. I'm keeping hold of my copy for now because I think I'm going to reread it. All right, my lovelies. Gosh, I think I've gone on. I'm just looking at the clock. That's a really long one today. But you know what? I hope, if nothing more, I hope whenever we have these little chatty times, I hope it's a bit of company for you, a bit of company for me, and hopefully there's always something a little bit interesting in there that might make you go, oh, I never knew that, or now Vivi's mentioned the shipping forecast, I want to see if I can remember all the names of all the different shipping areas. Can you? I bet there's one of you out there who can recite all the areas, isn't there? Digressing. All right, lovelies. I'll see you again soon. Can't remember what I'm up to. Oh, cooking, gardening, more books. You know, the usual stuff. So until the next one, please look after yourselves. Happy hunkering. We are getting to that time of year, aren't we now? So yeah, happy hunkering. And until the next one, cheerio.